Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda-Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of 3, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our Mom Sense and Dad Sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. Hi, everyone. I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta, and you are watching or listening to That's Total Mom Sense. As you all know, I'm a mom of 3. I'm juggling motherhood, my career, and caregiving. And I'm in the media and am an entrepreneur, and my husband works for corporate America. So we have very, very different careers that we're navigating. And like many couples, financial planning, parenting, and long-term goals are discussed all the time and, oftentimes at nightly check-in. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a couple who have turned these questions and dialogues into real-life answers. Financial experts Heather and Douglas Boneparth. They're co-authors of this book right here, Money Together. They've helped hundreds of couples build a shared financial future, and I can't wait to unpack all of these nuggets with you. So if you are a parent or a founder or are building a life with a partner soon, this episode is for you. We're going to get real, and it's going to be on the money. Thank you so much for joining me, Heather and Douglas.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. We're so delighted to be here.
This is going to be fun. Okay, let's start with how you both met.
We met in college at the University of Florida. I'd still say, right.
A while back, we were freshmen. We were just kids.
Oh,
and I
go Gators.
Go Gators.
Right.
I'm from South Florida, and Heather's from outside of Philadelphia and South Jersey. And I saw this girl who looked and acted like nothing of which I was accustomed to down in South Florida.
It's true. You know how us Jersey girls are. It's a little bit different. I was not like the rest.
Curly hair, tie-dye shirts, and Birkenstocks.
SEC. I was the SEC Rush talk's worst nightmare. Pretty much.
Heather was not conforming to very much what the South was all about, and it certainly caught my eye, and she was awesome.
But yeah, no, it's true. We met freshman year in college a very long time ago. And I often tell people that Douglas and I lived the life cycle of a marriage before even getting married. We really grew up together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Made a lot of mistakes, got a lot right, took big risks, and there was a lot of love through all those different phases.
I don't know if it's a stereotype when you hear about the high school sweethearts and the college sweethearts, and they're the ones that are so deeply together. But Heather brings up a good point. It's because I think you've experienced pretty much childhood into adulthood together. There's a level of understanding each other that exists for better or worse. Mm-hmm. I think most of the time it's for better.
Yes, absolutely. It's something so beautiful to say that you two grew up together and can, kind of challenge each other and make each other better.
Just trying to figure out how to go back to those days.
Yeah. Simpler times. Oh my gosh.
Seriously, yeah.
I just want to watch Saved by the Bell on a Saturday. Well, when did money first become part of your conversation? I mean, was it that first date? And actually, I do want to know this. Did you guys go Dutch, or did Douglas treat?
I'm pretty sure that on our first date, because neither of us had a car, that we just hitched a ride with some of his fraternity brothers to like the local fast casual sushi place, which are words that shouldn't really be put together. The fast casual sushi place.
There's some dicey meals there.
There were some dicey meals there, but we loved it. And I'm pretty sure it was a group date. And it was a group date for a while.
Yes, there you go.
He was always a gentleman. He paid. He definitely paid.
Oh, that's good to know. I thought
No,
went
you
Dutch.
were a gentleman.
I'm a gentleman. Of course.
I think that ticks the box. I mean, if there's Gen Zers listening, I'm still very traditional that way. And it's like, it feels really nice.
And I like gestures. And it doesn't mean that just because, and it doesn't have to be gendered. I don't just mean that a man should pay for women, but I like the idea of gestures for someone that you care about. I think that should not be lost
if I'm asking her to come out with a bunch of bros in a fraternity, the least I can do for that treatment there is, buy some lunch here. It definitely is.
That's right.
The one, what are you getting yourself into here?
Right. Yeah, I love that. And then when did you have these money conversations, like going from, your first maybe apartment to eventually, like when you have a family, your mortgage, like how did all that go?
There's two pieces to this. This is actually an interesting question because so I grew up, I am an only child and grandchild on both sides of my family. My parents divorced when I was 13. And I carried a lot of conflicting money messages into my young adult life. And one of the most powerful messages was around money and around what money is used for and around money being used as a matter of control, money being withheld to prove that you are deficient in some sense, and money being given to prove that you either have met the standard that was being set or being used to buy loyalty and control. And then I have on the other side of my family, I had my mother who, had to really restart her career. And she did not work for many years when I was young and really had to start her life over again in a new chapter. And she carried a lot of emotions with money and a lot of feelings around scarcity and a lot of fear. And so like I'm carrying these two, like a tale of two lives, by myself into my young adult life. And Doug really bore witness to a lot of that. It was a really tough time for me to understand what was real and what wasn't, and what I was in control of and what I wasn't. And that took years and years to unpack. And meanwhile, he grew up completely differently than I did.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with entrepreneurs pretty much all around me, right? My father worked with his father. They very much instilled in my brother and I that spirit. We ran, computer repair businesses. We were selling, CDs when you could burn a CD. Remember burning CDs?
Yes, of course. You write on the Sharpie. Not mixed tape. Tapes was before, but
10 songs, $10. I'm pretty sure that's piracy, but this is the 90s, no, it's the 2000s or something like that. And even on my mom's side, my grandfather came back from war and started a men's clothing store in New York. So everybody was running businesses and investing in themselves and, doing very American dream type stuff. And that stuck with me. It stuck with my brother. He went to corporate America, but other than a year at Blockbuster Video, I've always in high school. Remember that? I really hated myself here. I've always worked for myself and always had this notion you could believe in yourself and go out there and make it happen.
So we've got on one hand, someone who is empowered to say, I've got all the tools I ever need to build a life for myself. And you have someone on the other side saying, I don't even believe that I deserve to build a life for myself. And so that was really hard. That was really hard for us. And that was hard in the years to come because I chose to go to law school. A lot of these feelings are what led me to law school in New York City. I took out a lot of student loan debt to bet on myself and try and start this high earning corporate career. But I graduated during the Great Recession and found myself underemployed, underpaid, and sitting on, over $200,000 in student loan debt. And so when we talk about how money played into the early years of our adult life together, I could say that in those years, it was like, well, yeah, like we were thrown into the deep end when we started our adult lives together because we were forced to address money and say, like, how are we going to handle the fact that you are beginning your financial adult life with this massive burden over your head?
Yeah, how do we dig our way out of that? I left South Florida to join Heather in New York City. There's a brief time in which we didn't know if we would even be together, but it was very apparent to me, given I grew up in wealth management, that like, if we're going to give this a go, we need to get our arms around this. There was no burying our head in the sand about this, right? And she might not have known how we get out of that, but that's why we, complement each other here. It's let's get a plan to make,
But he made that possible, to be
Yeah.
clear. And this is something that we talk about in our book in the context of not only the shame that I carried into my adult life about making this decision, and really the shame drawing all the way back to my childhood of feeling like the debt wasn't just this financial obstacle. The debt was me.
Yeah.
I was deficient. I was the one that kept making decisions that weren't resulting in not having love, not having attention, not having the accolades, not having the independence that I sought from the situation that was pretty bad for me for a while in my teenage years. And he's coming into this saying like, no, you are in control. There are things we can do to move forward.
It's not great,
here,
but we can do something
but we
about
need
it.
to do
Right.
something because you wallowing in a cycle of shame
Gets
is
nowhere.
preventing you from us starting our adult life and figuring
Yes.
out what we want. Like there was a point, and I think this is relevant here. There was a point where Doug had said to me after we got engaged, I didn't want to propose to you until you could believe that things would be better.
Right.
Until
And
you
you're worthy. Yes.
Yes. Until
Yes.
you believed that you had control and that we could build a life that was a positive one together and not so clouded in the shame of decisions that you made that were not your fault.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're speaking something that really, really resonates with me. I decided to go to BU for undergrad. It happened to be the most expensive private institution in the country at the time. And my parents were immigrant parents. It was just me and my sister. And then I ended up pursuing a media career. So was it the most lucrative? No. And my husband, Sunil, has been that kind of sounding board for me. And we've navigated our own journey when we were in our 20s and then eventually got married. So I really feel you. And I love how you start this book with your story and then you encourage us to go into our story. And let's see, I wanted to talk about how in every chapter you tackle a few different points that are part of this overarching theme. It's the beginnings, mistakes, contributions, power, and risk, which I think is great as far as conversation starters. And each chapter, I love how there's, caregiving and, your goals, like so many different things that you can tackle, and keeping those 5 themes in mind is brilliant. For married couples, I know something that we do at home is quarterly financial review. QFR, which is something that Sunil has instated for us to just do a check-in every quarter on how we're doing. And I know you mentioned this in the book too, and sometimes the spreadsheets and the pivot tables get to be too much for one person in the partnership. And there was a couple, because you actually profiled 60 couples, that prefer to do this on a whiteboard. But I wanted to find out what works for you when you're like, let's sync up and go through our own, P&L for this quarter, especially in this new year as we're kicking it off. And what's working for you that I know our listeners can glean from?
Well, I'll throw this out there to start.
Sure.
One of the biggest challenges that Douglas and I face is that our lives are very noisy. We work together now. Obviously, we live together. We're raising kids together.
For now.
And and the lines between those things are very blurred.
Yeah.
And so we would oftentimes, and this is where we would fall into a trap that I think a lot of people fall into, like we would get to what I like to call the family rush hour between 3 and 7 p.m.
Yeah.
And Douglas would get off of a call and he'd come up and he would share something that has to do with either
work
or our financial, like something that came up in our financial lives in the middle of this busy, insane moment as like a one-off, like pepper this thing because I really want you to know about
I need your attention right now.
And that was so unhelpful. And it was so stressful, even when it was something good, that it actually deterred my involvement in the quarterly meetings that we were striving to have.
Yeah.
So I think that for us, the most important thing, it's like, one, you need to meet your partner where they are and do whatever format in this works for you, which is why we brought up the whiteboard and the notion that in this one couple where the female spouse has ADHD and it wouldn't work for her to use a traditional spreadsheet or to, the tools were not working for her. And her husband's an advisor. So even his financial planning tools were not working.
They were
for
both,
them.
and they were both willing. There was no resistance.
But you figure out what works for you. But in terms, I think one of the most important things is to be in a distraction-free space and time. So for us, we know what we really like to do. Doug and I love a date night. We always have. Like, we've always prioritized going out. We've always had like a deep bench of babysitters. That's just important to us. And so we schedule this at a place that we know, one, is like not loud. Two, they're not going to kick us out. And three, we can get a good cocktail and that we can really sit for a prolonged period of time and really enjoy this in a comfortable setting where we can really get into it. And this isn't just all right, the quarterly date popped up. We got to sit down with the computer in front of us. Like we really create the date out of it. And that's important to us because it helps us not only remember and feel secure in the fact that we can save these little peppering one-offs for the conversation, but then we actually enjoy the conversation.
So time and place are absolutely critical. By the way, agree with quarterly. If you do it too often, it doesn't allow for enough time to go by to see meaningful change. And if you do it, too far out, you don't build consistency or discipline, and you don't catch things. So I love the quarterly idea. Time and place matter. Heather would return the favor to me. By the way, I would do the family rush hour. She'd hit me up at like 11:30 at night when I'm pretty much comatose. I'd be like, talk about this very important stuff. I was like, what? Just kind of coming out of a coma. So time and place matter. Also, how you begin the conversation is very important. Heather's fine with spreadsheets and stuff like that. And that's wonderful. But especially for those who aren't, don't start with that. Start with things I think that, both people want to dive into that are attractive to them. And this could be the goals that you have for yourself. For example, hey, that vacation, you wanted to go on over spring break. That sounds exciting. You want to sit down with me to talk about that? What a great back door into, you're going to have to talk about, how to afford that vacation. So that's a really great to go into that. A lot of people like to start with what's not working. Okay. Also, terrible way to start the conversation.
Yeah, it's true.
Hey, let's beat ourselves up here. Right at the front end. Talk about what is working. Take your victory laps. Do the things that someone did, celebrate what was right. If there was even just something special that happened in your life, take a minute, take the win. Because you, do need to talk about the things you should be critical over. There's one more in there, I think, but we got time and place.
No, that was.
Oh, and it was meet your partner where they are and how they like to learn. And we just talked about that. The unlock for the couple in the book was, yes, her way of, like, when it became visual, when it's all those concepts just literally got drawn out on a board and it clicked.
And there's never been more financial tools and apps available for you to see your information presented in a way that works for you. Like, don't be afraid to to have some trial and error in this and
bring that, print out that newsletter you read that really resonated with you. Share that podcast that you listened to, like this one that really got a point across. And then you'll find yourself having more engaged conversations in the style and way in which people like to learn. Look, I'm a financial professional, right? Like, I'm always like, let's get into the numbers, but that again might not be how your partner learns, and it might not even be the best on-ramp into the conversation overall.
Yes, absolutely. That really lands. I wanted to find out how you involve the family now, because, kids need to understand the value of a dollar. And every parent has their own way to tackle this. I know for us, we actually don't give money as a reward for chores. We follow the fair play system that, Eve Rodsky started. So we have the cards and laundry, surprisingly, all thanks to Sunil. The kids hold the laundry card. My kids are, I have twins. They're 8, boy, girl, and my younger son is 7. We bought a little thing. This is early on Amazon where it helps you like fold the shirts. It's like,
I know. Yeah. The plastic
so
board.
it turned into like a game, and it was this family laundry day. And like now they do it on their own, and it's from end to end. Though we have to monitor. It's like, okay, you're taking it from the hamper to the washer, stuffing it in. We'll press the buttons, moving it putting it on the bed, folding it, putting it in your drawers. So it's a whole thing. And we actively decided that like, this is a life skill. You're not going to get paid for this in college. You might as well start early. And so that's that. But then it brings us to this, conundrum that it's like, when do they get money? Just birthdays and, Christmas, Diwali, holidays? Like, I don't know. So what do you guys do?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that I think we are in a harder place than ever to make these determinations because our children are growing up in a very different environment than we did. Not only between paper money and digital payments, but
everything's immediate.
Our kids live in a very abundant world, right? Where I think that they are lacking context for how things arrive in their lives. And that's not their fault. They shouldn't be blamed or penalized
via Amazon
for that because they just don't know. I remember when our 3-year-old, when she was a 3-year-old, our now almost 7-year-old would say when she was 3, that's okay that it broke. Mommy will just order a new one from Amazon.
Right.
I mean, granted, she was a pandemic baby and saw things arriving at the door and everything like that. But, as the kids got older, and I wanted them to experience, maybe it's a little bit of a manufactured scarcity, but they were important points to make. For example, when our older daughter started going to camp, she started losing goggles. Like she went to a new camp and she just wasn't responsible for her stuff. And in the past, maybe I would have had a couple backup pairs, or I would have ordered her another one overnight and said, don't worry about it. They'll be here tomorrow. But she lost like 2 pairs in 2 days. I mean, I was like, this is a slippery slope. And I said to her, I'm not ordering you any new goggles today. Here's what you need to do. You are going to go to the Lost and Found every day this week, and you're going to look for a pair of goggles. You're going to look for your goggles. And if you don't find them, then we can talk about ordering a pair or driving somewhere to get them this weekend. I wanted to create a moment of friction where we had previously smoothed things for her. So this is a broader conversation in our minds than just money and do kids deserve an allowance, but we're talking about teaching lessons in patience, lessons in responsibility for things and how things arrive in your life. And I know you wanted to talk about the connection between labor and earning. And
mine's very much value driven.
That was a good one though, Heather. I love it. I'm definitely doing that because they're always losing their hoodies. And I'm just going to be like, why am I fishing for them in the Lost and Found? You look for them.
Yeah.
That's right. Or say, like, all week you should go every day and take a look for it. Like set a time frame too. Like I expect you to go every day this week.
And I'm not trying to shame my child, but they definitely have the less cool, goggles or the less cool sweatshirt. And maybe they should wear that one for a day or two.
Right.
Have that feeling of this isn't my jam. This
isn't the thing I really want. I better take better care of my things.
Super comfortable in it. I don't want to feel like this again. So I'm going to take better care. But my approach has always been very values driven, especially because I've learned that very young kids and just young kids in general, when you're trying to teach little financial lessons to them, whether, God bless the parents are like, let's learn investing at 8 years old. Like, okay, yeah, we can talk about that. And I've done this with their Girl Scout troop. Oh my God. And
I can't wait to hear that.
I've done basic money with the 6 and 5-year-olds. Even more of a nightmare type situation, just to take out the paper money, they all go insane. But when you approach it from a values, instead of all the nuances that come with talking about actual money itself, and I'll give you a good example. When our older daughter was very young, we'll say 2 to 3, I would drop Heather off at the train station. I would do morning as we were figuring out the logistics of her life. And she'd say, Daddy, why does Mommy go on this train every morning? And I simply said, do you like doing fun stuff that we get to do on the weekends? Sure, Dad. I love going to the little gym or this, that. I'm like, yeah, me too. Mom goes to the city so we can do fun things on the weekends together as a family. A young child can grasp that. Mom, work, fun stuff. Oh, right. Work equal do stuff.
Right.
She has an answer. And if you repeat it enough, it will start to ingrain in them. Our children know how hard we work, and they'll tell you why we do the fun stuff that we do. And they don't question, why are you every now and then? Why you got an appointment tonight, Dad? But she knows why. We don't get a lot of grief for it. So values like that are much easier for children to wrap their heads around than, let me explain how the derivative markets work.
Well, now what's so, really, but now what's so interesting is, our older daughter turned 10 very recently.
Yeah,
and it's an interesting in-between phase that we're in, because they don't want things the way that she used to want things more often. The things that she wants are bigger things. It's not, a little toy.
Yeah. I totally hear you. Now it's like with the holidays, it's like electronics.
Yes,
my daughter doesn't
I
want
need a new
American
iPad.
Girl
That's
accessories. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the difference in what we're trying to do now, and very well knowing that even if we did give her a small allowance, which we don't yet, because she doesn't have the agency and freedom to go out in the world and really spend money on her own. Everything kind of still flows through us. Within the next couple of years, this will change.
Sure.
But we had said, when it comes to these big ticket items, which were really her focus, well, let's talk about it at the beginning of the year. Her birthday is in December. So are the holidays. So we said we have all year to think about how we want to approach these big ticket items that we can work towards achieving this at the end of the year. And we will match you. One, you want to save up your tooth money. Two, you want to save up holiday money. Or three, also, you want to do the things that we expect you to do, which include the responsibilities around the house, which includes behavior at school, which includes behavior at restaurants and when we're out with other families. All these things lead up to her understanding that if she does them for a prolonged period of time, we will match the money, and we will also tell her that it's not, or match the effort. And we could say, not even just us, if it's a really big ticket item, there's no way she saved up enough for
get an uncle involved.
We tell her, we also asked your uncle, we also asked your grandma, just so that she sees how many people got involved in helping her achieve this thing she wanted. I think the gratitude, it increases the gratitude rather than, mom and dad will just fill in the rest.
Yeah, it's my birthday. I want an iPad. They're going to get me an iPad. I mean, you start doing that with the big ticket items and you're going to
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah, potentially do some damage when it comes to their relationship with money and gratification and appreciation.
Yeah, we want her to see and feel how many people participated to make this thing happen for her. And I think that's a money lesson in itself.
But I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. I got to get them on the laundry line.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Heather and I will talk after this.
Yeah, please.
But this was, I'm taking a cue from you on this, with having it be like a family thing, that it's we support you. We want you to have this thing. We want you to be happy, but you're going to have to work for it, And one fable that we have said over and over and over again is the grasshopper and the ant, and it's just you have to be hardworking and then you enjoy the fun and the fruit at the end. When there's a money disagreement, what's the best way to tackle it? And this can kind of play over in many different ways. And again, the 60 couples that you profiled in this, you're going to resonate with at least one of them. So how do we tackle that?
I would tell you right off the bat here, nothing good is going to come out of being heated in a moment here. So the most critical thing is finding ways to catch yourselves in these moments and de-escalate so you can get to the appropriate time. It's not going to be very proximate to the time in which you're in the argument. You need there to be that type of space. We're going to rely very much on these check-ins that we've just talked about to be the forum to get to the thing. It needs to be brought into a setting in which you can have effective communication. You literally need to recognize that you have put yourself in an ineffective spot for that.
Because oftentimes what we're saying isn't really what we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw that in the couples we interviewed for the book. We have seen people whose behavior was objectively unfair.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to say, what a jerk, and when we both between, all the work that we've done on ourselves in having greater empathy around what's going on behind the words that are coming out of your mouth, because so much of this is about communication. The empathy, I think, makes room for reconciling and compromising. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, you're not going to get there if you try and race to the bottom in that stressful moment.
Yes.
That's why it is important to say, not only time and place matter, but to pull yourself out of the heated moment, because you're just not going to get there.
That's the hardest part. I would argue having, the conversations that may get, deep into what's bothering you, and what caused that argument. It could be difficult, but I don't think it's anywhere near as difficult as developing the skill that allows you just enough space to get out of the argument and table it for the productive conversation you need to be having.
And that's not to say to save every productive conversation for the quarterly meeting, because you know what, like there are things that come up, right? And my urgency is your urgency in many respects. And so if I'm uncomfortable by this, we should be talking about it. But then maybe what they need in that moment is to say, not only should we do this later, but let's pick the time we're going to talk about it right now. Maybe, do you have time on Friday? Because I think that maybe on Friday we should sit down and have a conversation about this and just table it right now.
Or if it's that urgent, not during family rush hour, not in front of the kids. They're listening. They're taking cues. Say, bedtime's 2 hours away. Let's have that conversation. Let's limit its scope. If it needs to go longer, we'll get to another day. But can we get to the thing that this is really about? And I'm sure if you ask anyone who had an argument, particularly around money, we say it all day long. Money's not just money. What is causing this in your own identity?
What are you insecure about?
Yeah.
What's bothering you? What's upsetting?
What bubbled this to the surface?
Right. Well, I feel like this brings up just power struggles that couples go through. When you have one who's the primary earner versus a primary caregiver, this is just one dynamic. Or if you have two kind of really high earning, high net worth people, it's very different. I'm thinking of like my own family, actually. So when you have primary earner and caregiver, I feel like the caregiver is always going to want to say, look how much we're saving because I am housekeeper, home chef, Uber, this, that. So like, should that person itemize that like, this is what we're saving? And then in the flip side with the two high earners, how do they actually come to an agreement? Because it's oftentimes an impasse. They both could feel that they're so tied to their worth is actually validated by how much they earn that it's like, well, my time's worth more and my time's worth more.
It's very interesting. And I'll start with the second example about we would, traditionally you'd hear people call them a power couple.
Yes.
Let's say.
Yes.
I think it's wonderful when two people care a lot about their careers and their career ambitions. And it's a great thing. A lot of times you see people in these situations paying more to delegate more of those responsibilities because they don't want to address that very inherent conflict, which is who needs to hand over some of their time when our time is both very, very precious to us on a professional level. But I think even when you do both work in a demanding career, there is something that's very important for people to understand. An investment in one of you will always mean an inherent sacrifice in somebody else. It can't always be both of your time, even Steven. And that's whether one of you stays at home, contributing in the way of caring for your family more, or whether you're both out there in the world burning the midnight oil every night. Equity is not formed by keeping score and saying, well, I got this, so I also need to get this. There inherently in a healthy relationship, there's going to be times where one of you has to toggle up more. Like we go through busy seasons. Like we've always known traditionally, there were seasons where he had to work more. There were seasons where I had to focus more on work. And yeah, that may have meant that during that time, like he had to dial back even when he didn't want to help out, because yours and mine together are what make us the most powerful team, not both of us just clawing for more and more, but recognizing that we have to help each other ladder up in this life, right? And that my wins need to also kind of feel like your wins too. I think what's hard in a career ambitious driven couple is to feel like they're in competition with their spouse. And it can be playful and it can be cute. But I think that there does come a moment where resentment builds from that dynamic. And you do have to start shifting your brain to when he wins, I also win.
Yeah, big time.
It's not, oh, well, he won, so now when's the next time I'm going to win? And that's really difficult. But that plays out in your time, your money, the way you spend, the way you save.
The yours, mine, and ours concept is very important here, right? And it is important you have your own ambitions and your own career and your own goals. It's very important that you honor your partner's goals and ambitions. But what's more important is, I think, the collective ambition that you have for the joint goals that you share, because there is 1,000 ways to get there. And if you can show someone that, hey, if I take a step back, lift you up, and it gets us to the goal just the same as us doing it 50-50, or it's always me in the spotlight, you have a lot of flexibility here with figuring out how to find that, whether it's balance or just a better way of approaching your joint lives together. You can start, creating more wins than you thought were possible here.
And that segues back into the first dynamic that you described about what it takes to really have a collective ambition as a couple. To us, it doesn't matter who's earning more. And that is not how we define what it means to contribute to your family, because contribution involves how you care for those you love, how you spend your time. Look, there can be a caregiver who, like you said, could be responsible for the cooking, the cleaning, the invisible and visible physical, mental, emotional labor for their family. And because they do what they do, they enable their spouse to go out in the world and earn an income.
More and more direct.
Right.
The whole, I make all the money, I'm going to do these things here. Do you know why?
Why you have the capacity.
Why this is possible in your life?
That's what Neha Rush always says, which is your marriage is an interdependent organization. And I love when she says that because it's the truth.
Yeah.
So this idea of collective ambition, which we bring up in our book, I love that it applies in both scenarios. We don't tether time to who's earning more because it applies to both.
I love that. And I love that it's money together because, sadly, half of our country does decide to part ways and is divorced, and here it's like, no, we can do this and don't let finances be the reason why it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's not a matter of how much money you have or the amount of money you have. It's really just a communication issue that's at hand. And that's what we hope this book really does, is open the door, however little, however big, for people to find the words that they've been struggling to find, to have those conversations and deepen their relationship, create that fairness and be happier. I want you to be happy, and fighting over money shouldn't be one of those things. And hopefully we'll create some impact around that.
Yes, you have. Yes. Where can the audience find you and follow you and even subscribe to your joint account emailer?
You can find our newsletter on Substack. It is called The Joint Account, or you can find it at readthejointaccount.com. You can learn more about the book at domoneytogether.com, but the book is available anywhere books are sold in all formats. And you can also follow us on social because we tend to be silly on there too and kind of entertaining.
Very silly.
He's at Doug Boneparth. I'm at Average Joelle. That's my middle name. Everywhere. And wherever you want. We'd love to have you wherever you want.
That's awesome. I know this is really going to resonate with my audience, and I'm so happy that we had this intimate chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is at Kanika Chadda Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.